You can't control traffic. You can't control others. You can't even control the weather. But there is one thing that you do have control over, and it's how you respond. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The Stoics recognized that life would be filled with obstacles, things outside of our control, chaos, uncertainty, pain, death, everything that happens to all of us. But instead of focusing our energy on the things we can't control, which is most of the things in life, Epictetus says we should focus our energy on the things we can control, which is our thoughts, our actions, our effort. Those are the only things that are truly in our locus of control. And this gives us an incredible amount of freedom. See, if we think about the things we can't control, like other people, their opinions of us, their actions, the economy, the stock market, politics, traffic, the weather, pandemics, wars, natural disasters, etc. If we're spending all of our time and energy worrying about these things, hoping for something to go our way, feeling anxious or frustrated when things don't go our way, then we're giving away our power. We're letting these external things control us. But if we realize that the only thing that actually matters is what we do with what we have right now, where we place our attention, what we choose to focus on, then we can live a life on our own terms. We stop looking outside of ourselves for happiness and fulfillment, because we know that those things are not going to give us what we want. We become indifferent to things that are outside of our control. We stop caring so much what other people think of us, what they say about us or do to us. And we can't be harmed. Marcus Aurelius says, "When you rise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." So many people waste their lives away worrying about things that are completely out of their control. But the Stoics tell us that we shouldn't spend our precious time worrying about things that are outside of our locus of control. Instead, we should focus our energy on what we can control. We should look within ourselves for what we need, because most of the things that we seek externally, they're already inside of us. Marcus Aurelius says, "You could stop being troubled today if you got rid of the habits of your mind. These bad habits, these negative thought patterns, these limiting beliefs, they don't come from outside of us. They're created by our own minds. And if we want to change our lives, we have to start by changing our thoughts, our mindset, our perspective on things. We have to decide how we're going to see things." Seneca says, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When we worry about something, when we get upset over something, it's usually worse in our minds than what actually happens. So many of the things that cause us stress, they're worse in our minds than they are in reality. Seneca says, "What is a life but a series of firsts, of things that happen to us for the very first time?" So when you're faced with something new, something that's uncomfortable, something that makes you feel insecure or anxious, remember that it's a chance to grow, to learn, to become stronger. It's a challenge to rise up to the occasion and become the best version of yourself. There's no such thing as a purely negative experience. It's how you choose to see things, how you choose to respond to them. Everything that happens to us, it's neutral. It's what we make of it. Epictetus says, "Some things are in our control and others not." He has this dichotomy of control. Things like our health, our wealth, our reputation, our character, our effort, our actions, our attitude, those things are in our control. But things like other people, their opinions, their actions, the economy, the weather, politics, traffic, those things are outside of our control. So Epictetus says, we shouldn't worry about the things that are outside of our control. Instead, we should focus on the things that are within our control. This is the key to happiness, to peace of mind, to living a good life. But it's also important to recognize that sometimes we confuse things that are in our control for things that are outside of our control. For example, food, water, shelter, clothing, these are things that we need to survive. And for most of human history, these things were scarce. So it's natural that we evolved to want these things, to desire these things. And when we don't have them, to feel insecure, to feel anxious. But in modern society, Most of us have enough of these things, but because we've confused things that are in our control for things that are outside of our control, we still feel anxious and worried when we don't have more of these things. We're always wanting more, even though we already have enough. Epictetus says, "It's not what we have, but what we want that makes us unhappy." So when you feel like you need more of something, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is it because I really need this thing? Or is it because I've been conditioned to think that I need this thing in order to be happy? Most of the time, it's the latter. We've just been conditioned to think that we need more stuff in order to be happy, but this isn't true. Happiness comes from within. It comes from our mindset, from our perspective on things. It's not something that we find externally. Epictetus says, when you compare what you have with what you don't have, you will never be satisfied. So the Stoics teach us to be grateful for what we have, to be content with what we have, because when we focus on what we don't have, when we compare ourselves to others, when we think that our lives are better than other people's lives, that's when we become unhappy. Seneca says, "Happy is he who makes others better." So instead of comparing ourselves to others, instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses, the Stoics encourage us to focus on improving ourselves, on becoming the best versions of ourselves. This is what it means to be truly happy, to be fulfilled. Marcus Aurelius says, "The fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good." So the Stoics believed that the purpose of life was to grow as a person, to become the best version of ourselves, and to use our abilities and our talents to help others. When we focus on these things, when we focus on what we can control, when we focus on what's in our power to change, then we can live a life that's true to ourselves, a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. We become indifferent to the things that are outside of our control. We stop caring so much what other people think of us, what they say about us or do to us. And this gives us an incredible amount of freedom. We become free to pursue our own path in life, our own definition of success, our own happiness. So what are some things that you can't control? What are some things that you're wasting your energy on? What are some things that you need to let go of? Let me know in the comments below.